You all can time your own speeches and prep, right?
Applying the extra photographs of statue increases development, employment, enjoyability, art, excitement, pathfinder, story, satellite, constellation, beyond the Earth's specific one is, and never seen no funding for JMAS program, status quo, competition physics, and 12, JMAS was almost kind of like units of the idea, the progress is continued to a bunch of comebacks to go, was to modernize the breaks, art, catalyst, national scheme, space, JMAS, good ambition, high precision, resulting data, would provide accurate sound, precision, photometric data, generated by the master catalog, and as a as insufficient, the statistical bomb, and 6, existing appliances of optimization, detection, ability, measure, power option, R cells, is compromised with possible R cells, the drop makes sense, the position, velocities, observe accuracy for offensive defense purposes, the more accurate the measurements, the better the SSA, GMAP, satellite, design to promote very high accuracy, measurements, and promote for moving, accuracy by when I go to spec to generate solutions more quickly, and we're going to make as we said to you, that Germany there's no space to charge strategy, statistical increase of vulnerability, cooler, and all the US components of forming critical deterrent, that charging curves hostile access, German value goes from 0 becomes a curse, making space phasers, the initiative becomes a charting against aerospace systems, the US is American had the US focus on cultivating defense capabilities, and only space response plans, and the Turks will take care of itself. There will be a second US SS versus Chinese doctrine, helped in 11, as no time to race intelligence, satellites, workers, satellites, offensive use the villages, bloody constellations, short notice, denies, and turns, fighting, provide offensive attack, shots, workers, technology, as all offensive military use, China, be pursuing, base technology, to take China, space, it's ground based on reception technology, China's capability to use soft field to neutralize space, as China's known to have its means giant, the GPS history receiver, China uses Ground-based laser to dazzle US space satellites, should place also be coupled with powerful program relation to ensure space has space satellite, space charge holds the ability to space become domain awarded, also ready for China to combine the military civilian technology or orders to that China would inevitably develop and use space space away. Commanders say that the military station space is sort of ability to system being assembly of transform officials use space China also spread the tech satellites with an overall altitude of less than 10,000 kilometers. US find no place to hide US find that seconds Chinese calculation McDonald and all over China good and inevitably summons a conflict calculation of conflict parts of government attention that this direction of artificial explain the local dome deficit POA only correspond to CMC and the majority members of POA officers as well as national security council Chinese senses represent people targets and vulnerability provide attracts senses and crisis report there is appearance of strategic is political most honest defense having pages for rational danger to an adversary thirds that rogue states will tackle and love it to name your last space everything you can do spaces critical operation realm centralized because vulnerability adversaries in place with robots able with counter capabilities of range of low cost option for safety personal low range the approach challenge with celebration limited information customer information skills in mind the celebration powers to get measured doctrine contested environment we can no longer rely on retaliation average resilience and motivated foster GLC in a situation where it's not even an attack distance to adversaries national interest deterrence was had decision making calculation and the country's protection about answers and space that destroys security military space marshal and space that someone imperialist military critical war for intelligence moments attacks and less custody ICS and central nervous system of the military many units also known through GPS and reportedly early morning satellites for first morning nuclear missile attack loss to assets also be catastrophic to US security and that's also great power nuclear escalation taken as well little international the rest of the US provides security European nation had endless cycles war the US free trade depend on America's ability to keep the routes open to democracy also America's ability to protect from dictators such as Gaddafi civilization protect power of the nations would display guiding bad ambitions and the serious influence on relations to Asia Russia Europe and the Caucasus these great powers also causing conflict in the US with able to suppress the conflict in the should also be more the US can help them where they will also be the most weights on arrangements and your church would not need we prevent US / Goldstein and some peace will also not mistaken living in government that's challenge also first become disparate for social force the fall of powers green nations one of course power to preserve order democracy because increasingly desperate force very much longer China's government nothing power relative to US not honestly we believe it's all reasons to be ideology preemptive war and accurately to delay churches will test more exposed SSA is also true deterrence creating 10 SSA is crucial act determination basis of failure with environmental and attention action technology decision appropriate results is going on the 10 alternate attribution with attribution you can't use the same one of SSA is attribution result of knowledge of space is current applied attribution key to successful deterrence tutor and the limit US must have the ability to know what this attack situation where is more requires attribution strategy not only entirely much less distribution must be responsive to attack there is its own intelligence collection capability can attach in 3 as the reason what is versus calculation versus satellite models of space right now SSA is also used and 12 basis crucially clear most usual actions actual satellite also first united conflict space garbage and ministers had to be seen as attack and program retaliation you as space engineers should be considered difference of potential to collision risks equal point not to collide you create more issues the delays over the possibility conflict consideration extinction option 2 greater access to resource with the arsenals and possibility of destroying human civilization versus US retain large arsenals so there's nuclear states that's not access to risk there's nuclear strategic crisis right now the RT and point 2 one of the most interesting places to break down US regional relations of defense hostile as one US participation one of my Russian dealer turns on the arms race reduce off Rascal assurances which will not be used against Russian military assets and increase the probability the impact will support and as Russia moves to attack nuclear weapons major crisis also early wars will be suspicion of said military nature the right crisis due to wars and the worst leverage which is why and really rescue the crisis times crisis false alarm time 1 to 1 with deliberate attack or an accident the impressive weapon 2 Russian the confidence of nuclear forces scenario 2 as the ISS degree with the ISS without plan US news report and Lord report 326 the ISS got a warning about the threat of degrees also promised at the same time critical to destroy the space station's degree satellites this one of the most dangerous order velocity you can still track on the NASA the first of the ISS 2 place before performed and would peace will continue over Earth for decades and SSA solves ISS collision Johnston continent A the almost targeting for SSA without space debris elimination possibility for gender remains high large small degree fragments of the atmosphere is unused most space radiations would lose the ability for exploration technology such as the ISS the children also run the possible, and ISS keep commercial space flight is hazard 9, and 9, benefit also putting ISS also boosting commercial space, the benefit any future space, also learn how to protect humans, and space commercial space is becoming increasingly robust. The ISS destination for all these vehicles, but design destination of the ISS open to possibilities of commercialization of the commercial industry. ISS is available for anywhere companies to engage in research, breakthroughs, finding innovation, and only commercial space can provide station, college, Latino, and 10, they will have the benefit of communication, cosmic access, supports include man-made disasters, decals, bar plagues, failures, love, state troubles, with seriously disorder, economic meltdown, the plan directions for running on to 5 words along, but 100 use word, and our against an endless word, takes an assumption of a single number of humans expected necessary for arguments and research boards, but in that really totally correct conception we learn across the world today. Additionally, saw scientific cooperation, IF, and non-US part of social strategy, geopolitical, technologies, we cooperate relation, very culture, technological, maturity, energy, to accept nationalism, over and over, constantly new sense of cooperative efforts in space and technology, assets, but we will compromise national goals for review, lift space exploration, as extinction, second, and 10, 2, 7 people have a reversible impact, will certainly have destroyed the ways of life and death, to represent technological effort to resolve problems such as climate change, overpopulation, disease, water and energy security, and science play special role in international relations, important international relations, arting the scientific level of nations working together, also more likely to be open collaboration, and others should continue forward is cooperation. The globalization will increase in the future, just China daily intend the late Southern Chinese Europe, as all students of the new arms, which have more peace, legal purpose against we made of extreme peace, consider whole platform launches between to links for access purposes, but in the meantime, the takes only to arms races space that should use resolve, and opposite to the US shows as never really solid classic relation with Russia and China, conversation, prep on 4, and last one by space conservation, controls of proliferation, we weaken the competition with danger, US troops, one business in space, voice relation China, Russia also reinforced Russia's air trade, legal possible international control, so the commitment partners, we know section space, creating space, infrastructure, sponsor, and building hedge strategy, offers more potential benefits, and lowers space, because that's the nuclear weapons, because quality nuclear weapons, space, successful space warfare, managed infrastructure, the ground, legal possibly elevated to space, infrastructure, but that comes with there's awareness in Moscow, Beijing, Moscow, against plans to get the system space warfare, as the direct North Korea and Iran, and SSA's also organization, aid so much cooperation, transparency, and Royals, and 11 international breaks out of loss and carbon, space policies, cooperation, policies, improves efficiency, sustainability, space projects, and wellness, forces, trying not operation, not worse, less that's real programs, potential current progress, so closely watching U.S. Pacific SSA, is unstructured activities, goals, government agencies, and hours, support markets, creates uncertainty, and cooperative ventures requiring these types of communities to embrace economies, be point is treaties, basic code, and verification, crucial says some species need to be treaty violation, also knowing the agreement, effective verification requires requirements, the verification also needs to serve between military civilian targets, the ability to discriminate between military civilian targets intended for certain spaces, published under employment for certain verification, robust SSA systems, the U.S. being the basis for each operation, made below every state could gain access to information, in terms of the foundation for multilateral verification, see some point is counter space weapons trade-off, this is Narden, and seven transparency should be next, and only transparency space, more pressing to space as hard as one of the states, and more want to have useful position plans, are particularly arms races, space potential for delicious, possibly reduced, SSA is very flexible, SSA should be the first time SSA, the issue for transparency information gather, and change the degree of research space after suspicion, SSA, the attackers would when they be followed, deterrence effect will also allow the country to Florida element of SSA space, the SSA for deterrence of space is scary, SSA space also very flexible, for support military, or transparency versus treaty degree of deterrence of space, and the attention 5 is solved, the 5 provides the best SSA data is gone, and 6 master service high retro accuracy and support SSA needs to establish also means observing baselines for multiple kilometers, accuracy precision measurement, and attention to JMAPs and SSA microsatellites to JMAP satellites, take measures and return high accuracy positional data, allowing information enable space threat analysis within minutes, and we know issues regarding weather or time of day, providing a rapid threat analysis, also hostage maneuver detection operators to be able to take defensive actions, one earlier increasing the survivability of our highest valued assets, and the data will be shared across cooperation degree, roles and alliance, SSA's purely dealing with the issue, the Secretary of Defense and the international necessary to ensure we have situation where it's based on the President's SSB, the rest of parts and agencies collaborate with other nations, parts notification presently has this in conjunction, the state part, continues to be extremely supportive of efforts to establish way information exchange to U.S. and constitution improvements and ability to share information to U.S. is waging out to all spirit favorite nations, supporting bilateral engagements, and SSA, the U.S. DoD has signed a bilateral statements, what Canada, France, surely ushered it, SSA is willing to commit to provide notification to China measures, funding access to collision, and ultimately notify Russia through diplomatic channels.
Alright. Seem to be a little confused about the Germany advantage and the cooperation advantage. Your taking evidence says the United States has to maintain strength over all other nations, and then you read this advantage as the United States has to cooperate.
U.S. primacy is not mutually exclusive with multilateral.
Is there a cooperation advantage as the world?
Yes, really. UN, WTO, other multilateral regimes start that proves that unilateralism can exist in a
are
world.
not in the context of international organizations. They're in the context of nations cooperating over weaponization.
Kagan is also in the context of conventional deterrence. The plan solves space weapons. There's no
yes, that may be true, but it also, SSA sets the standard for future regimes such as the PPWT, which China and Russia wants. Our evidence indicates that SSA is necessary for them to have a hedging strategy that China and Russia love.
Your evidence makes the argument that dominant states lash out, however you tag it as, we prevent a lash out. Explain to me how this is true.
It indicates that dominant states, which is the United States because of the hegemon, would lash out as a result of decreased and credible deterrent strategies.
Evidence that says that there is no deterrent strategy now.
Right.
Yes, there is no deterrent strategy now.
The Germany is low now. The plan increases it, and then you read that means we prevent dominant nations.
The problem with hegemony is that there's an Achilles heel in space. You know, anyone can send an ace out into space, destroy
the
core
Goldstein
space
evidence is
capabilities.
written purely in a generic sense, and it says that dominant
Yeah,
states
purely in a
function.
generic sense. However,
Right, so
if
how
it
is
is in a
that
generic
not
sense, if
using
it is in
that?
the context of our military operations, you can see the Marshall evidence. I mean, not conceded. That
That's
doesn't answer the problem with the Marshall evidence, which is that U.S. hegemony is
What
to
about
space
the
capability.
affirmative leads to missions to the ISS? We have stopped going to the ISS. Yes, you
No, we
protect-
don't lead to missions going to the ISS. We protect the ISS to maneuver the
Right.
capabilities.
That's my question is how your stack evidence and your internal arguments are about like cooperating over the ISS. You do not go to the ISS. How do you have
The ISS would be destroying an effective,
Yes,
sort of like variable.
if the ISS exists but we don't go there, explain to me
Yes,
how there's
it's
We
not
do
a
go
question.
there in a status quo. ISS exists now,
Alright,
it's increasing
so
cooperation, it's a
the
variable
plan
that's
is
necessary to.
it's like something
I don't understand what you're trying to say. I don't understand.
It's the next question. The plan's like JMAP or something, and it is the ISS is a NASA program. How does the
Okay,
But the plan doesn't increase the credibility of the ISS. ISS credibility is high now. We've been able to overcome
What about the
nationalist
plan
barriers, bureaucratic
engages in
barriers,
that NASA
engineering
program?
barriers, and
The
status quo.
argument isn't contingent upon NASA participation in the ISS. NASA could leave the ISS, however, the ISS as an entity
Right,
for
but-
other spacefaring nations to cooperate for a commercial spaceflight to take
Fine.
off has
My
to
question
exist.
is,
The
so
plan
the plan
prevents.
Also,
the plan engages in NASA cooperating.
No, it doesn't.
no, it does not. The NASA cooperating now, the plan prevents NASA cooperation from being
It's
destroyed
not-
by the destruction of the ISS. ISS is key to new technologies that
So
resolve
who would be
questions
in
of
charge of
commercial
the
spaceflight.
policy decision to cooperate?
I
over the
don't
ISS?
understand what you're trying to say. I don't understand where you're trying to get to. I'm a married
What agent would be in charge of cooperating over the ISS?
There are multiple agents. We already ISS collaboration is
So
already happening. The plan prevents ISS from being destroyed.
That's 4 off, and then the hedge advantage, and then the degree advantage, and then the cooperation advantage.
Just to be clear, cooperation is not ISS, right? That's the.
That
not-
weaponization
Okay.
is cooperation.
ISS 503.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Give me 1 second. Okay.
First off, is topicality. Exploration means to advance human presence in space. That's law 79. The white paper defines exploration as expansion of human experience. Exploration can only be accomplished by direct human presence in development. Means humans to some extent. And 7 waves, flex, thousands down development. Hit by space developers, rapid expansion of stat projects in space. This violation the affirmative doesn't increase human space. This is voting issue first. As a little bit there, allow robotic mission timelines there can be done to small additional seconds. Second, we don't have to set as long as one additional corrupt humans are visible. Continues to core the topic next off is the politics and Jackson Manic bill coming now. Obama's lost on push capital speed. That's for only 29 months. Maybe now is the top priority. Been since my congressional lobbying efforts and the representative accept the economic commercial rationale failure. Would place the U.S. at a serious disadvantage in expanding space exploration. Is controversial news spending guarantees backless to 10 to bring 11 the SCI and VSA with them to convey favor with the disrupt the reality of congressional budget when the Congress likely to be a hostile big discretionary spending the not priority funding for world new is going to be hard to come by when the economy recovers and deficits are under control. Obama's capital to be that thousand by 11 less corporations as possible without leadership from the president of the White House must spend political capital and the U.S. Congress preoccupied with the best priorities level the administration to build bipartisan consensus to failure. Rubio kills U.S. social relations. That's Miller 11 is academic with nullifying ancient aggressive WTO and ongoing application to spend major symbolic years of activism being a symbol of trust to inflict actual harm to the U.S. social relationship and relations of nuclear war during the case of Towson Black 11 as a player in choices. Vector red interest remains the only thing that can erase the United States from the map. Corporations is critical to averting nuclear war was consequence of preventing terrorism, potential and preventing proliferation is potential is difficult to exaggerate. Next up is the counterplan. The National Research Council to include development and deployment of the Joy Millier second Pathfinder survey satellite constellation beyond the Earth's mesosphere is a priority. One recommendation in the 2013 to 2022 decadal survey for the National Aeronautic and Space Administration. The NRC's decadal survey are key to NASA mission designs. NASA uses the survey as a core tenet of their policies. The National 11 National Relies on the science community to identify the leaders on the questions of the university conduct studies that provide scientific community consists of key questions posed by NASA. The broadest consensus studies of decades service NASA as partners in the United States for coordination of space and nutritional issues in the counterplan. It's popular that Brumville knows 6 decade review builds a consensus of conservative appeals to Washington D.C. and NASA and the National Science Foundation depend on the survey to help them determine which programs are programs back in the title list priorities, make it a favorite with the White House and also studies the congressional budget process of real science questions Congress tends to convert the community. Congress really realizes it doesn't have the expertise to make a decision on its own. Next off is the critique IRS gender. This makes violence and ever bloodstains. And 98, the making of the state, the construction of the other is threatening to the central speak of identity. The state requires the security and legitimization of power threats through security real thinking girls seen external so this to become synonymous with the elimination of foreign feminist theorists have demonstrated that politics defines an opposition to the totally forced threat. This is constituted of masculine hostility towards the female, other and ignorance of gender makes their methodology suspect. The alternative is to vote negative to investigate how reality is constituted. This is key to develop a basis for action and avoid error application. This Peterson. 99, we studied through the focus our attention on particular ways at the expense of other things, images of international politics, and assumptions lead us to seek certain answers and use certain methodological tools and methods that will shape our assumptions about significant actions. What outcomes or desirable structure we look for are able to see our images shape how we behave. They have concrete consequences. We expect hostility behavior. We may elicit response to confirm our expectations. Now interrogating the gender nature of ourselves as Peterson. 99, reorganizing the power gender relations forces to reevaluate traditional explanations. That's why they revise and enter adequate accounts to study of world politics and by acknowledging and examining how gender shift can to prove or understanding of global crisis, the possibility of moving beyond the crisis of politics, legitimate states are unable to protect their citizens. Economic nuclear ecological threats, global crisis cannot be understood or addressed without acknowledging the structural inequalities of the system. Go through hegemony decline is best. It limits nation building and huge scale interventions. Spend 11 Somalia. Haiti, about the coast of Afghanistan, Iraq, of all, saddled the United States with unwanted protracted expensive frustrating nation building policy of nation building has drawbacks. It's not popular with the American people, neither the U.S. nor any other country knows how to create working competent democratic institutions quickly and cheaply. It is not contributing much to the well-being of the U.S. Now, hegemony solves nothing. The past 2 decades, period with Smearsheimer and all of the U.S. has also been on middle software properly while Washington has worked from those steps southern uranium emergency ran both free from acquiring nuclear weapons. Every administration trying to build a settled Israeli Palestine conflict call and sending a drop will deteriorate further. The U.S. is in a world of trouble today on the foreign policy front. The head today is early 90s giving way to pessimism, new age of America. Now, a new age of American decline shift and economy and political power appears. This means retrenchment now is key to a stable transition to multipolarity. This is the only way to solve cooperation that's sick. 12, the age of the American unipolarity has ended it. China is rising. China's economy will become the world's largest by 2018. China's military capacity are expanding Beijing's defense spending is likely to surpass America by 2025. It's not just China, emerging powers on every continent of achieve political stability. India, we're becoming active on the global stage. Turkey has $1 trillion, 6.6. Well, last year Brazil is stable, like the democracy going steadily. Foreign policy has become extremely active. India and economic boom. This is a new world order different from the American attention. What Obama has succeeded in preventing enhanced U.S. influence over precisely because he recognized these new forces to work by emphasizing multilateral organizations, aligned structure, and international legitimacy. He got the results of hegemony, increases military power, results in backlash for committee, 11 the gains, standing from the increase in power, start to diminish the results used to instruct the equilibrium between allies, relations on the one hand, enemies with neutral states, and the other neutral states begin to reflect on the cost of the neutrality, leaving them with little choice but to base the flow. And current space powers average which require new energy. Neutral states realize the moment has come to take sides, further increase the tilt of power in favor of the base powers, regulating the aspiring the state wants to secure them before, work that before. And U.S. hegemony causes terrorism. The same non-terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, non-state actors, are not strictly speaking engaged in balancing the U.S. Actually, here's what kind of reflects some key attributes of balancing terrorists engaged in any activity. American purpose here is handing against terrorism, moreover, responding to such a conflict because it's an instrument that weakens the weak use constructive to protect 9/11 assault was not random senseless irrational acts of violence. 9/11 was attack in keeping with the qualitative paradigm of war force. It's used because of adversary to enhance the political objectives, market objectives, and calls extinction that set a man for a nuclear attack by terrorists even failed to exasperate tensions between civilizations. Nothing will conflicts will proliferate but speed up the arms escalate to a third war. This should be that one is when nuclear in effect global and we will all be losers. Can I recall? Yeah. And Obama's hegemonic strategy involves military adventurism and Asia risk destabilization that's King and the Obama world and new defense strategy to do something country military force through Asia militarism cause ill with a strong opposition to the world's most dynamic region, middle world making military presence in the United States and strictly speak opposites for military and the reason is dangerous to peace of enhancing regional stability. U.S. has the greatest power to create chaos. That goes nuclear, that's Okara and 97 North Korea, South Korea, Japan have to know how to possess nuclear arms for American nuclear annihilation, economic influence, military power in the region, growing importance to the world system, allowing these countries to escalate into global conflagration. Oh my god. Yeah. It's great. No accidental laws of 29, the supposition of developing change fails to consider the situation dependent would really be neither side wants escalation on the source on the presumption of any increased irrationality realized in the political context. It is absurd to claim that nuclear weapons can be guaranteed to having within the finite futures, but not having for over 60 years or more accident reduction would be the probability of any accident is extremely low, marked out there, and multiple factors make zero in relations make up. Safeguards against that's all coming on the line of access of far better options in place. The requirements of external information to code how created up from physical measures that is highly misleading characters in the use nuclear weapons are less than a pistol, hair trigger more like a pistol, and the holster with the safety trigger on the safety is locked in place by a combination that can only be having fire made possible. The soldier carrying the pistol receive a message, sending a given the combination of nuclear weapons cannot be detonated without the recipient of external command authorization. The path will be targeting come very close to absolute assurance that errors cannot lead to a nuclear explosion. Now we don't have ISS missions. The next one is in 2017. They can't solve this. No impact of science called that's Dickinson. And one of the frustrations of the meeting scientists gave together to discuss policy related issues at speed with requirements for basic discussing game experts and professional colleagues can go out the window. There remain little evidence at the end of the meeting how useful was to lump all these activities together on the umbrella terms of science, diplomacy, market diplomacy, and International cooperation, self-resource scarcity, and resource worseness K&A of the International Energy Forum was launched. The participation was more than 80 countries to discuss the world of energy to the second session to discuss the means of international cooperation among the global companies. Another session with highlighting immediate future energy advances, compelling advances, the future investment energy field, ministers, oil exchange. These on how to enter energy challenges, the cooperation advantage there. It's a double bind here. Either science cooperation is inevitable because it's in countries' best interest to resolve weaponization or other issues like visa caps or big cooperation. Now, international space cooperation is high on the plane key. That's Sutherland 326. Europe and China discuss future cooperation science from the UK to discuss future collaboration with China and mission to explore the planet. Northern one China, Europe discuss great barriers and collaborate. We made it clear he was working with Europe and cooperation has multiple reasons. That's original and the prospects for cooperation between this entire fading efforts have gone nowhere with the past decade. Like economic and diplomatic security since space race to be the heart of the frontier too far now due to U.S. years of innovative technology shift and China may no longer be in doesn't see U.S. expertise new obstacles to cooperation to come from the Republicans capturing the House and cooperation doesn't solve weaponization. China sees it as inevitable that 2011 China has recovered the long-lost national prestige. It's also made many people think China will be the next global country to U.S. dominance for the U.S. most important concern is China's real advantages of space plan development. It's obvious that many Chinese political military leaders believe the inevitability of space particularly used components of space weapons, the serious misunderstanding of U.S. space policy, and instrumentality, the probability of jeopardized future possible space cooperation between China and other major space players.
Okay, so how does the current plan shield link to politics?
Yeah, Brumfield evidence on this question says that Congress recognizes that they don't have the scientific expertise on certain questions. So if it's a priority when we're
Okay, so where has Congress ever deferred to scientific expertise? And 99% of scientists believe global warming is real. However, basically 50% of Congress doesn't.
Our part is very specific to NASA recommendations within the
There's
technical
been
survey
two
process.
technical surveys before.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. You read a bunch of links about spending and it being, a political fire, call it a political lightning rod in Congress. Why would the GOP accede to these scientists that are telling them to spend billions of dollars on the program?
The Brumfield evidence preempts this argument. It says that it steadies the congressional budgeting process because they realize that a priority one recommendation is the best way to do the plan.
It steadies the congressional budget. So does Congress
It's
still have
also
to
not pushed
does
by
Congress not
Republicans.
fund the does Congress fund the plan or not?
No, there are two arguments. One is that Congress decides to give money because they recognize the scientific community has to agree. The second is that it doesn't go through the normal budget.
It doesn't go through the normal budget.
No.
What is the normal? Okay, what is the distinction
Because
between the
most of
current
the
plan
time,
budget?
Congress would just decide, should we do this or should we not? But because they
Okay,
recognize
so
that
who allocates the funding? Is it NASA? Is it Congress? Is it a different department?
The National Research Council has a fund for recommendations. That funds the plan. Obama doesn't have to
Where
push
does
it
the National Research Council get its funding?
from NASA.
From NASA?
The argument
They
is
have a
that-
budget.
So is
There's a
it
set
internal
budget.
trade-off between internally trade-off with NASA, right? Internal trade-off
No,
with NASA.
there is no debate because Congress
That's
doesn't care.
another question. I have another question because this is
disagree.
obviously going nowhere. Okay, the politics disadvantage. Why would the GOP want to give Obama a win in an election?
What do you mean, give him a win?
Give a win. I mean, this would probably
Are you asking about why it will pass now?
Huh?
Are you asking about why it will pass now?
No, I'm just asking you this. It's not necessarily why it will pass now. I mean, it doesn't make sense for the GOP, even if they are going to
I'm
be.
confused as to what this relates to. Are you talking about the will pass evidence? Because I can answer that.
Okay, then go ahead.
Okay, as Obama's top priority, we've made the argument that capital theory is true. It allows Obama to push priorities and horse trade and see things. Senators also
Okay, so but
senators
I don't
also
understand.
accept economic and commercial rationale because they know that failure would put us at a serious disadvantage.
Economic and commercial rationale. Do you read any evidence that talks about specific GOP senators that want to give Obama a concession, even in the face of an election year? I mean, this is
You're
burden's
right.
on you.
It doesn't name
Okay, it
senators.
doesn't.
It names
Where did
the
Obama
GOP.
get his political capital?
Oh wait, it does name senators. Sorry, I was wrong. Benjamin, Senator Cardinal.
Does it say in the face of an election year, and are these GOP members?
Obviously, our evidence assumes an election year.
All right, so where did Obama get the political capital to push Jackson?
I don't know where you got it. We have
Okay, so he's had to deal with things like financial regulations, the healthcare debate, immigration-based cap and trade.
Obviously we
He's
didn't
figured
read
out all these things. Where does he get his
a
political-
1 and C answer to winners win.
Huh?
Obviously we didn't read a 1 and C.
I'm telling you to answer my question. It seems to me like if Obama's able to push all these controversial
We haven't
policies,
read a card or taken a stance on where he got capital.
I mean, you could logically defend the politics instead. You're not answering my question. Where does he get the political capital?
We haven't
This is your uniqueness
got
on
it.
political capital.
This is not a
Okay, you
unique
don't have an
argument, this is a
answer.
winners win argument.
All right, that's fine.